as a leader, how often do you invite truth instead of waiting for it? And even with the invitation of that truth, it is not guarded in the sense that it does not seem psychologically safe for the people that you're leading, because peradventure in the past they have been um, reprimanded in subtle ways. People know how to do that in subtle ways for speaking up and sharing their truth or giving their opinion and feedback on something. We don't want that as leaders because we want the space to be safe, and we are striving to create cultures of executive peace. Hello, I'm AL Starks. Welcome to Two Sides, One Solution. We are at episode 6. We are rolling. Thank you all for joining me and being my special guest. I'm so excited that today, before we end our time together, I will be presenting a scenario that was actually sent in to us. So thank you. Thank you, listener, that sent that in for us to explore what that one solution would be in what you submitted. So thank you so much. This is our time together, episode 6 here, Two Sides, One Solution podcast, where we take a drone perspective. We take a bird's eye look on situations and we strive to find that one solution. Why? Because I am a solution. You are a solution. We are the solution. And I love what I do it as a mediator, because essentially I strive to help individuals gain what that solution is. Now, I understand there are some times that you have to solicit the assistance of a professional such as myself or another mediator who is working in this profession to help us get those solutions. But I will submit, and the reason I started this podcast is because I totally believe that we underestimate the power of mediation. And in certain aspects, we mediate and we don't even realize that we're actually utilizing those skills. So if we can sharpen those, and if we can bring more awareness to when, where, how to utilize them, we will be in a better space in whatever environments that we are leading and we are the executives of, and that we are the managers and the stewards of, and the supervisors of, because you are joining this podcast. Why? Because you are a leader of leaders, and I am targeting exactly that discussion with you intentionally. Last episode, we talked about being intentional in our repetition. I definitely want to be intentional with this podcast to speak to leaders of leaders such as yourself, so that you are grasping what we're doing without assumption. Thanks to Miss Singh. You have to go back. If you haven't watched, you have to go back and watch episode 5 so you can gain what I'm talking about with Miss Singh, giving us what assume really means. And we do not want to assume, because we're coming together. Two parties may have opposing views, and that's okay. We're trying to get understanding, not necessarily agreement. We get understanding, we find one solution. Today, we're going to have a good time together, because all of us have probably found ourselves or know someone who has been in the situation of being an overworked employee with an unaware boss. So once again, we're in the boxing ring here, two sides, two opposing sides, or we're in the courtroom right now with two opposing sides. We have the plaintiff here that is saying, I am overworked. We have the defendant on the other side presenting to the judge, I am unaware of what this person is talking about. And so we know when those situations come, we want to examine where we are, have the discussion of where we are, so that we can mediate a path forward of progression. And a lot of times, our overworked individuals, if you are the person even in that seat, are some of the best individuals to have on your team. You want individuals who are diligent about what they do. They're passionate about the assignment that has been given, or the task, or their responsibilities in their role. However, we don't want them to get burnt out to the point where they say, I'm done. We don't want the turnover that takes place when some of your best workers and leaders are not well taken care of. So it may look a little something like this: a person saying outwardly, I'm drowning, nobody cares. How many have encountered someone who, in so many words, have said something to that extent? Okay. That is our alarm to let us know. And if you are the leader, you are the boss, the CEO of that person, and you hear that, these are buzzwords for you to not be the unaware boss. When you hear those things, if you get just a little insight from maybe someone else that they said it to, pay attention to that. so that we're getting to those solutions for sure. And then you have the other side that says, if there was an issue, why didn't you say something? Two opposing sides. What is the solution and how do we come together with this? I want to talk to the person who maybe relates to the aspect of being a burnt out individual. And burnout sometimes and usually does not start with the work. Because as I stated, the person who does the work, they're typically the one who they're just good. They're good at what they do. They're committed, they're faithful, they're loyal, all the things that you would want. It is a process that evolves to that. And then it turns into anger. And essentially, the burnout starts with silence. Note that the burnout starts with silence. When you recognize that it's becoming overwhelming, you have too much on your plate, that this is beyond the realm that you can execute right now, and you don't say anything, that's the very point that the burnout started. So it's very important if you're on that side of the person who is overworked, it is very crucial for you not to mute yourself, for you not to be silent. Now, I do not understand that there are certain power dynamics involved in that. We talked about that in Little Fires. If you want to go back and watch the first 4 episodes of this podcast, we broke down some little compound effect nuggets that take us into why certain power dynamics show up for us and we quench ourselves of speaking and expressing when we have these moments. And it's important that you kind of navigate out of the weeds of that so that we can get to our one solution. Because in reality, the boss should be aware, but there are times potentially due to their overload of work that they are not. So don't assume that. Back to Miss Singh. But know that you will not be silent so that you can speak up so that we can get to the solution that we're looking for. So we'll see that one side feels overwhelmed and unseen, and the other side feels shocked because typically, when you do eventually unmute yourself and speak up about it, it is not in a way of clarity, it's not in a way of calm because elevated at that point because it's just been festering and it's been in the slow cooker. That's why they tell you even with a natural slow cooker, if you are doing some green beans or something in your slow cooker, there's a time frame for you to like pop that open because you can really, really burn yourself. But when we allow ourselves to just stew with it and sit on it and marinate with it and meditate on it over and over without speaking up, when it does come off, boom, grand explosion. So many people are hurt and damaged by it, including yourself. And we do not want that. So, for the unaware boss, allow yourself to be more aware of where those moments and times and opportunities are for people to get what they need. And I'm also speaking to the other side of the person who is overworked, that you do not allow yourself to be silent because that is the first ingredient of your burnout is your silence. The first ingredient of being frustrated with what is finally spoken when it's spoken for the boss is not offering opportunities for individuals to share. So, here's my question to leave for you to think on, leader of leaders. As a leader, how often do you invite truth instead of waiting for it? And even with the invitation of that truth, it is not guarded in the sense that it does not seem psychologically safe for the people that you're leading because peradventure in the past they have been um, reprimanded in subtle ways. People know how to do that in subtle ways for speaking up and sharing their truth or giving their opinion and feedback on something. We don't want that as leaders because we want the space to be safe, and we are striving to create uh, cultures of executive peace. And that's a great opportunity and time for me to present my book right here, Executive Peace. You can go to elastingsolution.com and order this book. It's also on Amazon for you to get that book. If you are a leader of leaders, I need you to get that book. This is going to walk you through principles of self mastery before strategy. It's going to give you conflict resolution plans so that you're proactive, so these things don't come and hit you and blindside you and cause cavities from a leadership standpoint. All of those things that will stop the progression. This is creating a harmonious supercell so that you can keep people, number one, in mind, peace in mind, so you can keep the good workers that are diligent to what is needed for the goal and the mission of your organization or your business. Okay. So important. And then profitability. I want to come against anyone's thought process that you leading well and allowing spaces of peace means that you're not profitable. It's people for people service first, and then we grow from there. So important for us to look at those particular things. So important. One question that I want to ask as well that I did not put is, where have I stayed silent hoping someone would notice? And that's for the overworked person. You don't want to sit silent and people don't know. And then you feel unseen and unheard, and you're just hoping for someone to say something. And so we can't operate in that. We feel that people have the ability to read our minds. That is not the case in many situations. So important. So, leader, ask yourself that question: how often do you invite truth instead of waiting for it? Don't wait for it. Try to go ask. But also, I'm encouraging the overworked employee in this scenario to not mute themselves. Silence is the first ingredient to your burnout. We don't want that. So, how do we find a solution here? The solution is creating a culture where feedback is invited and not punished. We want it to be a safe space for individuals to feel the comfort of speaking up and not holding it in, or feeling as if there's going to be, if not some direct things happening, but some indirect things happening from them being vulnerable and honest, authentic, and genuine. You want that to be the space that you work in. If you set that from the get go, it does not get altered or misconstrued into another direction that wasn't intended. So that's why it's a beautiful thing for you to use a lasting solution, because our goal as a mediation firm is to establish those cultures for businesses and organizations, corporations, government entities to flourish well. And the culture and the environment is a harmonious supercell that produces all things good, all things positive, all things profitable. So I am now, yay, drum roll, we're about to present our first scenario. So we had, once again, your submissions are anonymous, but we had a submission that brought up a scenario between an employee, and actually this is a government employee, this individual, government employee, who based upon numbers and stats of their particular department on their job, bear with me as I'm reading through this, their department on their job, supervisor initially defended the employee for their extraordinary efforts and going above and beyond what was the standard of the monthly status numbers that were needed. And after about 3 weeks, it looks like the supervisor came back to this employee who was previously praised for their exceptional work and asked that employee to slow down, to no longer strive to overachieve in their position. Now, this person's perspective is they were essentially just doing their job and was working at a pace that was good for them, which ultimately just showed great results. To then be asked to lower just their basic standards. This person didn't feel like they were overachieving. They felt like they were doing necessarily what was given on a daily basis to do. And to be asked to slow down was very perplexing for them. This person asked, what should I do in this situation and what is a solution? Well, thank you first and foremost for presenting that. I felt like this was great to fold it into this episode, since we were talking about the overworked employee versus the unaware boss, because this scenario is a little bit different, because this is necessarily not an overworked employee. This is an employee doing their standard job, but their standard job is excelling above the norm of the other individuals in the department. So, how do they resolve that? So, I guess I would call it the high achieving employee versus maybe what we want to call the lowering standard boss. So the boss that says you need to lower it, come down a little bit because this is affecting our production standard across the board. You're just above standards, and so we want to make it even. So interesting scenario here, but I would say, in tying into what we're talking about today, do you feel that it is a space for truth based on that question? Since you're not the leader, but you're being led by someone, you are a leader. Let's get that straight. You are a leader, but you're being led by another leader who has a role to oversee or the oversight of your department. Do you feel like there's invitation in this department to present truth? Although this individual presented to you something that's contrary to what you are striving to do and to be, just as a professional, is the environment conducive for you to speak to that person? Does it create an avenue, as our solution set forth in this episode? Does it create an avenue for you to give feedback and not be punished by the feedback? If your answer is yes to that, I would have a candid conversation with your supervisor and share your concerns about what was presented to you. And if there is a compromise, or if there is one way that you all can both be satisfied, and you not feeling that you're underproducing what is just norm for you, and that particular supervisor is also feeling that the standards, for whatever reason, is being challenged, are not taken to a level that I guess potentially would get him in trouble. Without more information, I'm assuming this person probably has someone over them, and the mere fact that you said that this person defended you at first in the meeting and then came back later and presented another dynamic to it speaks to me that there's someone that they're answering to as well. And so you probably want to keep that in perspective when you go and talk to this person, that they're probably having to meet a certain standard that has been funneled down, especially if they're in second tier leadership. Sometimes a hard place to be in. So I want you to take the bird's eye drone view of that, to take the emotions out of it and not make it personal, because that person may have a standard that came down and they're just conveying that. If in fact that person was offending you, you may have saw a glimpse of their true heart, and what they truly believe is that you're doing a great job. So kudos to you, and that you're excelling in your job, just in just normal access, right? You're, like you said, you're not trying to outshine anyone. You're just doing what is at your pace. If that is the standard of for you, just looking at that person, that they probably do really truly respect you for that. And maybe by you all just having a gentle conversation, mutually creatively, something can evolve that will allow you to still be satisfied in your job, and that individual to meet the demand that I would just assume came down from another tier of leadership. So that is my response to how we can come to a one solution in that scenario. I hope that was helpful for you. Thank you for joining in, and the times that you have tuned into the podcast and being my special guest, and for you to sit in that special seat today with your scenario. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If there was something additional you wanted to ask regarding that, that folds out additional questioning, welcome for you to send an email as a follow up to that. If you have a scenario, please just email that to 2s1s at elastingsolution.com. We are presenting solutions here. We are coming to find out what can resolve when we have two parties, two situations, two scenarios that are opposing. And we're not always looking for agreement, but we're looking for understanding. Thank you for joining us again on another episode, and we'll see you next time.